Hey, we are back with another episode of Go Find Yourself. It's Taco Tuesday today, so somebody better be feeding me tacos.
I've come to really like Tuesdays because they are kind of a taco news day where we just have this half-hour burrito and we try to like slam everything into it. Just
Will
whatever's
that give
around.
me a burrito? Yeah, throw it in there. Why not?
Yeah, it's good. I don't mind.
It's burrito
Well,
Tuesday.
today on this wild burrito, we're gonna talk about Medico because of their big HSBC news, and we're gonna talk about coins, Binance, XRP, ETH, Bitcoin. We're gonna just talk about price surges, what's going on with all of those, which is fine, and then we're gonna talk about Cardano GPT, which is a strange little Discord AI that they've made. I took some time to take a look at it, and it's a weird thing to do. And then we're gonna keep moving through into more GameFi and also into blockchain and pharmaceuticals. So it's a little bit of a smorgasbord, I guess, instead of a taco. But we're here for it. We have a lot to talk about.
Maybe it's more like a fajita.
About
a whole bunch of things that you can put in your shell, and we're just going to slime it all in there. All right. So we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Like, share, subscribe, help us get the word out. Also, shout out to our friends at Swing. Swing is a bridge / multi-chain aggregator, but they do a lot more than just aggregating stuff. So really smart dudes and gals. We've been friends with them for a long time. So shout out to Swing. If you want your merch displayed on the show, send it to Kiara because she gets no merch and I get all the merch.
I live so far. I'm so
everybody hopes their merch is going to make it into the like banana hammock calendar, but it never does. So maybe next year. Maybe next year we'll do a swimsuit calendar. Go find yourself. Go find yourself. Oh my God. Okay, forget it. Okay. I've gone too far. Let's go.
Okay, so you might have seen that there's a wild XRP price surge, and we wonder if that could be validated or caused by the current Medico goings on. So basically, Medico is a Swiss digital asset custody firm. Ripple has already acquired them or is acquiring them, but Medico is partnering with HSBC. And so there's a lot of, really positive sentiment about what that could mean for the world. And we're seeing, Ripple go up.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been talking about Ripple for quite a while and just how
forever since I was born.
They've been very quietly, but very strategically making a lot of moves for the last few years and just biding time during their lawsuit, which I think gave them cover for just kind of hanging out and preparing for the regulation wave that's about to come globally. But this is not the first partnership that or acquisition that Ripple has been a part of that is custody related. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. There's going to be a land grab of partnerships, so to speak, because there's only so many vendors in some of these jurisdictions that are able to provide said services, HSBC and Medico being obviously one of them. So instead of Ripple trying to apply for and get licensing all over, which could take years, it's not just Ripple. Like we're seeing a lot of these other kind of sort of centralized entities pursuing similar tactics, I guess. But it just makes sense to me. They're going after kind of the, central bank / CBDC / transaction currencies / stablecoin markets globally. I mean, this just makes sense. But I think people are starting to wake up to Ripple now. And I was a naysayer for the longest time. I thought Ripple was
really?
Vaporware. Yeah. I honestly thought Ripple was vaporware for way too long, which is pretty standard for me to think something sucks and then it goes crazy. Sure. It's not that I thought it sucked. I just didn't understand the gravitas of what they were trying to accomplish. But now I think it's becoming abundantly clear to most. And so as a consequence of some positive legal stuff and the market conditions and now these announcements, Ripple's ripping.
It's exciting. So before we really talk in depth about Ripple, I think talking about what the Medico partnership with HSBC is, because it's kind of cool also, is they're trying to have a complete vertical stack for banks. And so they also are saying that they want this to be a global solution. They anticipate to continue really easily making partnerships in Europe, but that they're also hoping to move into Africa and the States.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Medico has it's not just approvals to be a custodian in Switzerland, but I think in a lot of the EU. So again, these are just very important strategic partnerships. You have to, from a business perspective, when you're thinking about regulation globally, you have to figure out what's the better risk-adjusted opportunity: acquire or apply. And I think in this case, especially if you've got pockets like Ripple currently does, acquisition is by far the fastest way.
Absolutely.
So might be a lot.
Now, with that in mind, so like we said, we're seeing XRP go up, but people think XRP will go down when Ripple has to actually face the music about the securities charges in the States. So that's kind of interesting. But there's a lot of articles that like to compare tokens, right? They're like, these tokens are in a head-to-head race for market cap. These two ecosystems, DBL is head-to-head. And you're like, okay, I would love to see this in some sort of like Greyhound race meme, but also I don't know why we're directly comparing these specific tokens. It's kind of a weird, to me, BNB and XRP, like, yeah, okay, maybe there are similar investors, but what a strange comparison that we're finding.
So I think the reason they're comparing the two is that other than ETH and Bitcoin, they're two of the largest assets by market cap, and they both happen to be arguably a layer one token. So I mean, BNB, whatever. We could, don't get me started on BNB, but
I mean, I know, but
all of this being said, I've been surprised that BNB had maintained that market cap for as long as it did. Like, it was at, I can't remember what it was at, but it was at like 700 billion or something nuts.
Yeah, it was quite wild.
It was like insane. I've never really understood why. It never really made sense. There was no value accrual that substantiated that or anything. But Ripple, on the other hand, I've thought was also mistakenly in the top 10 in market cap for the longest time. But I think now, if I had to make this is not financial advice in any way, but I mean, I guess the decision is: do you think future utility is BNB going to have more utility over time? An ETH smart chain connected to Binance, which has its own issues, obviously, that we've been talking about? Or do you think XRP, with their very aggressive pursuit of capturing the regulated space? I'd probably go for the latter personally. I don't know.
Well, not financial advice. Okay, so BNB's market cap is down 67% from November 2021, which was their all-time high. And XRP is up 75% since its September low, putting BNB at 35.7 billion and XRP at 33.2 billion. I just think that's kind of.
I love when they use those comparisons. Like, you're comparing apples and oranges. Like, it's two different time frames. Exactly. One from bottom to top and one from top to bottom. Like, how is that even relevant? Anyway.
Make any sense. Okay, so the only other thing that I have to really say about Binance is that people are just being mean now, and it's getting in the news. So Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong is really stoked that Binance is having a settlement. I guess he probably thinks it's going to set precedent for some of their own maybe woes going forward, or for other securities woes going forward. But there's quite a few news articles out about what Brian Armstrong is saying, and like most of it isn't very fun and friendly. Like, yeah, CZ already came forward and surrendered himself, and they're settling and what have you. As we said yesterday, like, good on him for doing that. Good morals, ethics, values. So it's weird to me that we're kind of like rubbing salt and pushing him in the dirt.
Well, I mean, to Brian's defense, I think some of his comments are being taken slightly out of context.
Oh, I'm sure. You mean by the media?
Yeah. Who would have thunk?
Oh my God.
I know. I mean, he's obviously been concerned and publicly concerned about FTX and Celsius and Binance and a lot of this crap that's been happening, because they're a publicly traded company, but he's still accountable for the performance of the coin stock and the growth of the business and so on. And this was a massive headwind. Obviously, the last 2 years have been very, very difficult for many businesses. Coinbase, given their scale, you would think they might be somewhat immune, but they weren't, right? Coinbase took a big hit stock price. Coinbase took a big hit revenue. Now they're wrapped up in some of these legal issues. I think, I mean, I share the sentiment that Brian has, in that, like, the more of this we can get some sort of conclusion to quick, the better, because we can just put that era of lack of accountability and a lot of this nefarious activity going on and lack of oversight. We can put that shit behind us and move forward. And I think this Binance thing, I'm super positive on the fact that CZ just came in and surrendered and stepped down, because otherwise we would have been hearing about this nonsense for the next 3 to 5 years, probably.
Absolutely.
And it would have been, again, a massive headwind for the space. So, I mean, I tend to actually agree with Brian here. It sucks that CZ, you know, had to step down, and, like, if anybody feels bad for the founder stepping, but that's actually pretty common. Most startup CEOs, we talked about this before, are not ideal small, medium, and large business CEOs. I don't know CZ personally, of course, so I don't know, but this is not super far outside the realm of expectation of scaling businesses. Brian is maybe the exception. There's a few, like, notable CEOs that went from Steve Jobs' garage startup to, you know, massive multinational. But the vast majority of founders replace themselves as CEO not that long in. So this, to me, isn't that shitty for CZ. I think he had to chew on his ego a little bit.
I don't think it's that bad for CZ. I find it interesting that Brian Armstrong probably said some reasonable things, and the media took those things and made them this huge drama.
I mean, Brian's a very calculated guy. Like,
Absolutely.
everything he says, generally speaking, is pretty on purpose. So I find it rather hard to believe.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Okay, a little more on tokens and what's going on here. Stable coins are up. If this is good for you, fantastic. I think that we'll see stable coins go more and more, like, increase more and more as time goes on. Partly because banks are going to start interacting with them, partly because people see them as, you know, DeFi gold. So I don't know what this is going to mean for the space, but the global market cap is up 34%. So daily volumes of stablecoins right now are 50 billion.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, there's a few reasons for this. There's probably some powder that was on the sidelines that has now been brought in, ready to be deployed. That's probably a decent chunk of this. But we're also seeing some rotating already. So Bitcoin had a good surge. XRP had a good surge. I think Chainlink for a minute had a surge. Like, there's a few blue chips that have had pretty incredible runs, and a lot of people bought them at the depths of the bear, and so they're taking profit off the table near the end of the year and holding it in stables to wait and see how the end of the year finishes and the beginning starts. This is pretty common. I think this is a good sign. Some people might interpret it the opposite. Like, why is all this money not invested in risk assets? That doesn't usually happen overnight. People, like, the market doesn't just decide that in the last 24 hours this went from bear to bull. There's kind of a process of that, coming to that realization. So anyways, this to me, like, is pretty standard. I think it's actually supportive of our thesis that 24 might be a lot better than 23 was. I think we're going to see one of the things that we're going to see a lot of, or hear a lot of, in 24 is stablecoin regulation, because that's one thing that hasn't really been well defined anywhere yet, and how they're going to get managed, and how central banks are going to interact with stablecoin operators, and so on. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some interesting narratives around this early on in 24. But definitely a good sign. I think there's capital there. There's capital waiting. VCs are deploying again. Not fast, but they are starting to deploy again. So I think general sentiment is turning around for sure.
Okay, our final token news is ETH v Bitcoin in terms of NFTs. So Ethereum has reclaimed its top spot in the NFT market, which shouldn't surprise anyone, I guess.
Yeah. So do you remember when ordinals were, like, all the rage?
Yeah, 100%. It was like 3 months ago.
Yeah. So that was like this crazy. Again, I didn't participate. A lot of people did. A lot of people made a lot of money. So it's all good.
Good on them. Yeah.
But I've kind of wondered all along, where the value
Where's this
maintenance was
going?
going
Yeah.
to, like, it was going to come from. And obviously it got exciting during the bear market. And then I haven't heard a darn thing about ordinals or any of that crap since then. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know what they count as NFTs. If ordinals are even counted as NFTs, I don't know.
I think they would have to be based on how Bitcoin or how BTC interacts with.
I really have no idea. I really have no idea.
Well, this was not a surprise, but I thought that we should touch on it. Okay, you know what was a surprise is that Cardano has come out with their quote-unquote revolutionary AI chatbot. So this is basically ChatGPT, but in their Discord. I thought I would look further into it because I thought maybe it's like a pricing bot, or maybe it's a trading bot, or maybe there's some sort of really fascinating utility that they've envisioned for this bot. And they've named it after Girolamo, which is Girolamo Cardano, is the polymath which the network is totally named after. So they really think that this is going to be an integral first name part of what Cardano is doing. But it's just the same. Like you can go on the Discord and use Cardano GPT to summarize articles, summarize videos, summarize images, that kind of thing. So I just don't. I went through all of their articles actually on Medium, and I can't figure out what the real utility or what the real value out of this is, because it's not as though the AI is on chain. And it's not as though they're doing something that you can't do with a current AI.
I don't understand this at all. Like Cardano blockchain doesn't really work. And there's like pretty much zero projects actually doing anything meaningful on Cardano. So maybe they should focus on that instead of
I guess define meaningful. If the community likes this, maybe that's meaningful. You have to hold a minimum of 5,000 CGI tokens to explore this new Discord bot. So maybe there'll be a price surge for them. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I struggle with Cardano. I've struggled with Cardano for years. They have this. They were the first to really, that I'm aware of, to come up with the, we're going to bank the unbanked narrative, and everybody piled on board, and we're going to bring Africa into a first world continent, and blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff may happen, but Cardano, the blockchain, sure isn't helping at this point. So I don't know. And again, I feel like anything AI GPT is I'm reading this stuff with a grain of salt now, because everybody is saying they're doing something ML, AI, machine, like, I don't know.
I made a Go Find Yourself chatbot.
Sorry?
I made a Go Find Yourself chatbot. It is about as useful as this Cardano chatbot.
Yeah. I mean, like, it all comes down to the LLM. What large language model are they using? What type of internet access? Are they piggybacking on ChatGPT or what? Like, is it their own like LLM? I don't know. We'll have to.
Maybe here's some good news. Let's talk about something less funny. Transac has joined the Blockchain Game Alliance, which is kind of cool. This has other really big brands like Animoca, Ubisoft, The Sandbox, and they're looking to advocate for blockchain to enter gaming. We kind of talked about it. We were really excited about GameFi yesterday, so maybe this is why this got thrown in here today.
Hey, before we get too far, I misstated on the ordinals thing on Bitcoin. The most traded collections are Bored Ape Yacht Club, SAT BRC20s, Rat BRC20s, Frax ETH Redemption NFTs, D-Market NFTs.
Though, not Bitcoin.
What?
That's ETH though. Oh, I see. BRC. Yeah.
No, yeah. These are on Bitcoin. Anyways, so I don't think ordinals are actually considered NFTs here. I'm not sure.
Oh, interesting. Anyways. Okay, Transac.
Back to Transac.
Paying attention.
Right. Yeah.
Transac joined the Blockchain Game Alliance, which is cool because it's with other really big brands like Ubisoft, Sandbox, Animoca, and they're all looking to advocate for blockchain to enter the gaming world. This is kind of what we were talking about yesterday in terms of GameFi, which I think is how this jumped on here. But another big name is coming to GameFi.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I understand, Transac is like an infrastructure layer for GameFi, and this is obviously,
they do like NFT fiat checkouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, like payment structures and stuff like that. I mean, obviously that's been one of the biggest challenges with gaming, is because the game doesn't live on chain, as we discussed yesterday, the entire game. there's this weird like dichotomy between like, do they just outsource, or do we have like a Lego box of Web3 add-ons that games can use as it makes sense? I don't know. That's kind of what this seems like. Instead of everybody having to create all of this stuff from scratch all the time, obviously it's like plugins or anything in Web2. People are building the shovel to support the proverbial gold rush. So I mean, this to me is great. I think again, there's other platforms. We mentioned Immutable. I have no skin in that game either, by the way. We just happen to have mentioned them twice. But Immutable is another kind of infrastructure platform-esque for GameFi. And there's many other support protocols and projects on top of Immutable. But yeah, Transact is another one. And I think being a part of the Blockchain Game Alliance with Animatica and other big brands. Who was the one we were talking about yesterday? Final Fantasy, what were they called?
Square Enix.
Yeah, so that would be like another example that would, be a good addition to this Blockchain Gaming Alliance. And I think nothing but good can come out of it, in my opinion. So I think it's great.
Okay, final one, because this is your weird Tuesday taco of all the things you could put on a burrito, is blockchain transforming the pharmaceutical industry. This is essentially looking at traceability for enterprise resource planning. And I think that this has to do with things like pharmaceutical drugs that are expiring on shelves and accidentally being handed out, or pharmaceuticals being stolen, counterfeit prevention, recall processes, this type of thing. People are really, really interested in blockchain in healthcare. We often thought that was going to be in terms of personal records, but it's interesting to consider it in the context of pharmaceuticals instead.
Yeah, I think supply chain in general has been an incredible application for a long time of blockchain technology that doesn't get enough discussion. There's not enough sunlight shone on this because I think, I talk about this a lot, that blockchain as a technology should not be conflated with cryptocurrency.
That's right.
And the cryptocurrency and the tokens, utility tokens and currency tokens, coins, which are like layer one assets, it's not the same. They're not the same. We're talking about two totally different things. But blockchain technology, forget the tokens, is incredibly disruptive to supply chain and identification and elections and all of these things where you really want immutable, public, transparent trust. You don't need to give trust. It's implicit because you can see everything. And so anyways, from a pharmaceutical perspective, I think I'm surprised we don't hear more of this. And we probably will. It's becoming a lot more mainstream now, understanding the technology than it ever was before. So hopefully, I don't know, hopefully we see more of this. I've been excited about this for 6-7 years, actually. I talk about this briefly, but we helped accelerate blockchain projects into the U.S. government with a company accelerator company. Anyways, this is in 2016-17, and at that time, some of the supply chain and identification structures in the U.S. government were already being supplemented by some of these blockchain solutions. Cool. There's more of this going on. And there has been for quite some time than we think, but it's not super sexy, and people can't really shitcoin.
Well, we also talk about the idea that blockchain will be fully adopted when people don't realize they're using it, right?
You don't even know.
Government applications, pharmaceutical applications, that is 100% where we're going to start.
Well, it's like anything. I'm pretty sure my car won't start without internet access. Actually, okay. I'm pretty sure you can't start
for real.
Yeah. Like there's a bunch of my car doesn't even have keys anywhere. You can't get in the doors with a key. Yeah. Nothing. Like it's kind of ridiculous. But that's the parallel to draw. Is the internet effectively runs everything we do day to day. Like, do you remember in Canada, just because you live in Canada, but not that long ago, one of the major banks in Canada had a power outage.
Oh yeah.
And the whole country was screwed because one bank had no internet.
And it was like a couple days. People couldn't buy anything or pay for anything.
It's like the whole country just stopped. You're just like, okay, we need to maybe think about contingencies because the internet underpins everything we do. What if it was hijacked?
Yeah,
But I
what about solar flares?
Well, yeah, but things like Starlink, I think, are going to make a big difference because then the governments or companies can't shut down internet access, as we're seeing during the Ukraine war and in other places. So, anyway, all right. Well, that's a hodgepodge of news for today, but I think we covered it all.
I hope you had fun.
I always have fun. I was going to say at the beginning of the show, actually, I don't think we're going to get through it all, but
We did.
looks like
We nailed it. We ate the whole taco.
Yeah, we're more effective than we thought. Speaking of burritos, I'm starving. Okay, we'll be back with another live show tomorrow, 12:30 p.m.
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
Every day.
we're on all the major venues. So tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all that shit to help us get the word out. Yeah, and with that, I say to you, Kiara, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Bye.